What is up? Okay, Tiffany.png says, I'm definitely intimidated by manual mode. What should I know? I know that outdoor needs low ISO, darker indoor, higher ISO, but I'm not sure what f-stop is, blah, blah, blah. I tried learning before, but I was overwhelmed. Okay, I get it. I totally get it, right? But essentially what I'm hearing is, hey, you know, I tried riding a bike and I fell off and I just don't really know if I can do it. I'm kind of intimidated. And so, all right, what are you going to do? I mean, you essentially have to say, like, no, I'm going to learn it. Like, being intimidated by something is just your brain saying, maybe I'll do it, maybe I won't. And you just have to push yourself over a cliff. Just decide that you're going to learn how to do it, and then you can learn. It's not, can you do it? Of course you can do it. Can you ride a bike? Yeah. But if you stop after you try twice, you don't know how to ride a bike. So you got to keep going. You know, how many times will it take you to ride a bike? You know, some people might get it their 7th time. Some people, they might get it their 70th time. So when do you stop? You don't stop. That's the answer. You don't stop. You just say, I'm going to learn this. And every day you try, or every other day you try, or every week you try, or every month you try, or set some schedule, you just try. And because you try, your brain starts going, okay, I kind of understand. I kind of remember this. Okay, and the wheel just starts spinning. It's starting a train. At the beginning, you're like, what the? There's so many things to think about, and I don't know what to focus. Forget all of your fear and apprehension about failing, because you're gonna fail, and failure is the best thing you can do. Number one thing you can do to succeed is fail. Number one. So if you're not okay with failing, you're probably not going to succeed at much, because in any success story, there's always a period of failure. Always. At the beginning, you just suck. And if you're okay with sitting in the suck, if you're okay with sitting there and going, yeah, I'm not really good at this, but I'm going to keep learning, then you have a unique advantage. Because a lot of people they'll just quit, they'll just give up. Then they'll talk themselves out of it. And it's not that they can't do it, although they'll say, I couldn't figure it out. I just whatever else. But I'm willing to help you. I'm willing, I can give you all the answers, but you gotta be willing to put in the work. So if you're intimidated, okay, allow yourself to feel what you feel, but also know that I'm on your side. I figured it out. I created a course on manual mode, for goodness sakes. Hit me up if you want it. But I can tell you, if you get stuck, I can tell you. So just ask. But essentially, so there's 3 things that you need to know. And I'm going to do these quickly because this is kind of a longer topic, but I just want to give you an idea of the 3 things you're trying to balance when you are taking a picture, right? There's aperture, ISO, and shutter speed, okay? Aperture is the size of the eye. Lenses can have holes, literal holes, that are bigger or smaller. That's it. How big is the hole? Okay, that's what aperture is. How big is the hole in the lens? It's simple. Is the hole big? Is the hole small? You call it aperture, and people are going, oh, I don't know what it is. No, it's just a hole. How big is the hole? That's it. When your eye gets bigger or smaller, based on whether it's dark or light outside, your eye is changing its aperture. The hole is getting bigger, letting in more light, or it's getting smaller and not letting in as much light. Okay, that's aperture. Now, ISO is kind of a more difficult topic to understand, but essentially it's just a sponge. How well does your camera soak up the light? Okay, so it's inside the camera, the sensor is either not soaking up light quickly. If it's really bright out, you don't necessarily need it to soak up light quickly. But if it's inside, you need it to be, really receptive to that light. It's a sponge, so you're kind of turning up its ability to soak up light. So ISO is just, you're either allowing it to soak up light better, or you're saying, no, I don't need you to soak up light as much. And the problem with turning your ISO way up, you may go, oh, hey, well, what's the problem with just turn your ISO up and just have it soak in all the light you need? Sure, but on lower grade cameras, you can't go too far before your image quality gets degraded, and the darks in the image, the blacks in the image, they start looking gray, and you can start to see colors in them, and they're just not as clear and crisp, and also just the clarity of the image kind of starts falling apart. So you want to keep your ISO low, but again, all ISO is just a sponge. It's just either it soaks in a lot of light or it doesn't. And shutter speed is how quickly does it blink open. It's the blink. It's the when you press the trigger, it goes boop, boop, and that's it. It's just how long does it stay open. Now in camera lingo, you know, we're talking fractions of a second, right? You know, I'll take pictures at 1/200th of a second or 1/1000th of a second, and that seems like just super. You know, 1/200th of a second seems super fast, but in camera terms, I think of kind of 1/200 as kind of general. A fourth of a second is way too long. If it blinks open for a fourth of a second, that's way too long. And then, you know, maybe 1/1000th of a second, that would be if you're like, or 1/2000th of a second, that's like if you're like kind of driving down the highway and you take a picture out your window, you know, the trees are going by, they're going by, they're going by. At 1/2000th of a second, you're going to be able to freeze that motion. Even though it's kind of blurring by you, the blink is so fast. It's not blinking open and staying open. It's the smallest fraction of a second. It's going to capture, that's going to freeze that motion, okay? So aperture, size of the eye, ISO, how well does it soak in the light, and shutter speed, how long does it stay open? Those three things are what you're balancing. That's it. That's all you need to balance. And then obviously there's a lot of nuance inside that, but that's it. And as long as you can at least start there with like, okay, there's three things, A, B, C. Great, I can learn my ABCs or whatever that's shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. That doesn't work. But you get the point. It's three things. So sit with that and just memorize it. Just get it down. So you don't have to ask yourself anymore, wait, what is that? And then once you've got that, you'll finally have some sort of bedrock, some sort of seat you can sit on and go, I can figure this out. There's three things. I already remember the three things. I already know what I can describe, I can explain what those three things are, and then you can start working with them and getting an idea of what's high and what's low for those specific things. You know, what's a low ISO? What's a high shutter speed? You don't know until you try, right? So you have to have these ranges in your mind. In my mind, I have a range for shutter speeds of, well, that's too low, or oh, that's way too high. I've already figured out those ranges with aperture and with shutter and with ISO. I have an idea of this is going to work well, or this is kind of far off that usual place that I like to stay within. But you can only learn that when you start using it. Now you can memorize like, oh, I need to keep my ISO between this, and I need to keep my aperture. But what happens if you try to memorize that length of information? Then you just sit there and you're trying to take a picture and you're just like overwhelmed with like, okay, I remember the one range. You're like trying to pull out your notebooks and like understand all this stuff. So you don't want to try to just memorize all this stuff, but start with those three things and memorizing what they are. And then if you want more information from that, hit me up and I'll lead you down this path to help you learn manual mode.